It's time now for today's press review, and I'm joined in the studio by Elitsa Gadeva. Elitsa, papers across the world, of course, continuing to follow this new war in the Middle East. What have been the highlights? What got your attention?
Well, let's take a look at some front pages first, starting with Spanish daily El País here. That headlines with some numbers. It says that 2 out of 3 Spaniards oppose the war in Iran. However, 61% support sending a ship to Cyprus in response to the Iranian attacks there and as a commitment to defend the European Union. And then French paper La Croix here headlines with Trump's warrior transformation. The paper says that the attack on Iran shows a dramatic turnaround by the American president, who was once opposed to, quote, endless wars. And then the front page here of Lebanese newspaper L'Orient Le Jour shows the massive evacuations from Beirut's southern suburbs. The headline here's The headline reads, an entire population forced to flee. And here we see the traffic jams and people evacuating and children on the street, Alison.
What about the Israeli papers? How are they covering the conflict?
Well, Spanish left-wing Haaretz here has an analysis that explains why Trump's fantasies for Iran go far beyond a regime change. It says that the joint US-Israeli war is a bid to consolidate a new regional order in the Middle East. And Trump's vision for this order is not based on democracy, human rights, or international law, says the analysis. And the paper reminds that his central partners in the Gulf states are authoritarian monarchies where the ultra-rich employ migrants from the global south. And therefore, the new emerging order will be driven exactly by this, by economic interests, defense technologies, AI, crypto, real estate, and finance, where the Gulf will be a haven for capital, not limited by, quote, the perils of democracy. And then let's take a look at a right-wing paper, The Times of Israel. It says that the Gulf states are living their worst nightmare and that for decades they have been trying to avoid an attack from Iran. And the article says that Iran hopes that inflicting enough pain on its neighbors will make Trump stop the war. But actually, it might end up backfiring, says this analysis. The Gulf states might end up cooperating even more closely with Israel, opening pathways to new unexpected alliances.
And Elitsa, the world's attention, of course, is now on this new war in the Middle East, but war also continues in Ukraine, and you found some articles talking about the relationship between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Washington Post here says that Russia sees a chance that it may benefit from this new war in the Middle East. Trump's attention is now totally diverted and weapons may be rerouted to the Middle East, it says, and Russian oil might once again be put on the table amid surging oil prices. And it's an analysis that's also echoed in this opinion piece here by the Kyiv Independent. It writes that in the Middle East, chaos is Putin's new ally. And the opinion piece says that people shouldn't be worried that Putin will intervene and help Iran because he's instead trying and exploiting this new war. Putin can position himself as a vital negotiator and once again present himself as a global player and mediator. And the paper adds that if a pro-Western government is installed in Iran, this wouldn't be in Russia's interests. And the opinion piece finishes with an advice for the United States. It says that America shouldn't lose sight of Russia. It's a country that historically rebounds from losses.
Ukraine could also see an opportunity. Countries already asking it for its drone expertise. All right, so the war with Ukraine in danger of being overshadowed. The Epstein files, another topic that have not been in the papers much recently. What's the latest you can tell us about those?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Politico here says that the Justice Department had just published documents that outline sexual assault allegation against US President Donald Trump. So it's a trio of FBI interviews with a woman who says that Trump sexually assaulted her when she was a young teenager between 13 and 15 years old. So she was introduced to the US president by his friend and pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. And her central allegation is that the president forced her to perform oral sex on him, after which she beat his private parts in efforts to defend himself, and he punched her. And these files come as Democrats have been investigating whether the Justice Department is withholding on purpose materials that include sexual assault allegations against Trump. And to end, well, maybe on a lighter note, but not really, I want to show you some cartoons here that are talking about this topic. This one here by Ben Jennings that says, "Praise our savior Donald Trump for bringing forth Armageddon to distract from all his sins." And another one here from Cartoon Movement that shows Trump hiding Epstein and maybe his connection to the Epstein files behind his Iran operation. And next to him, Benjamin Netanyahu hiding many murdered behind the new war in the Middle East. And finally, this one, well, basically how they decided to name the new operation. It was first named Operation Epstein Distraction, but this was a bit too obvious, so they decided to go for Operation Epic Furry instead.
A good reminder to seek out some Epstein headlines today amid all of the news about Iran. Elitza, thank you so much for that. That's our press review with Elitza Gadeva.